The Dowry Prohibition Act has found its way in several judgments. There are many judgments in which all the courts, including the apex court, have highlighted that dowry is a social evil that continues to harm the Indian society and hamper the progress of women's rights. While the community can take steps to address this issue, legal measures like prohibition and punishment are essential. While the laws may be safeguarding women, but is it essentially safeguarding society as a whole? My answer would be a no. Now, let us discuss a recent event that took place on 9th December 2024, the suicide of Atul Subhash, a software engineer in Bangalore who had become a victim of misuse of matrimonial laws by his wife and in laws. Before taking his life, this techie left behind a 24-page suicide note and a recorded 80-minute video which has gone viral. This video accuses his wife and her family and the judiciary of harassment and systematic bias against men. In this video, he expresses his anguish over the system and what he has gone through in the last so many years. This case highlights the amount of mental harassment that Atul Subhash went through while the pending cases were ongoing. His last wish that his only son's custody be given to his parents rather than his wife shows the level of frustration that he was going through. What is even more amazing is that he has requested that his ashes be thrown in a court gutter if justice is not served. Isn't this a reflection on the Indian legal system? Does it also not give us a wake up call as to what should be done in the face of so much of misuse of matrimonial laws by women? Now, let us delve into the facts of Atul Subhash's case. In 2019, he married a lady called Nikita Singhania, and in 2020, they had a son. After the birth of their son, marital discord began between the couple. The marital discord between Nikita and Atul led to Nikita leaving the house in a huff with her son. She allegedly started demanding substantial amounts of money, including 3 crores for a legal settlement and rupees 30 lakhs for granting visitation rights to their child. This obviously came as a big shock to Atul, who obviously wanted his son back. The situation kept escalating, and in 2022, when Nikita filed multiple cases against Atul and his family, including charges under the Dowry Prohibition Act, as well as various IPC provisions such as 498A, that is cruelty by husband or relatives, 323, that is voluntarily causing hurt, and 504, intentional insult, and 506, criminal intimidation, things went from bad to worse. Over time, Atul repeatedly faced over 40 court notices within one single year, which caused him to spend nearly 120 days traveling for court appearances from Bangalore to UP. These legal battles obviously had a lot of stress on him, not only mental but also financially. Atul claimed that all the allegations made against him were fabricated and false. He also accused Nikita's family of misusing the legal system to extort money and harass him and his family. In his suicide note, he detailed out how these legal proceedings, combined with demands for large sums of money, drained him emotionally and financially, leading him to take the biggest step of his life, that is, commit suicide. He also alleged misconduct in the legal system and said that there were times when he was mocked by the judge during the hearings, and in the aftermath of Atul's suicide, his brother and his family filed an FIR against Nikita and her family under charges of abetment of suicide and joint criminal liability. Nikita's family obviously denied the allegations, but it is believed that they have reportedly fled their residence after being named in the FIR. This tragic incident has reignited debates on the misuse of Section 498A of the IPC, which was originally enacted to protect women from being subjected to cruelty in marriage. Critics now argue that the provision, in some instances, has been exploited to file false cases against harassed men and their families. Atul's death is a signal to all that prolonged and contentious marital disputes cannot be good for any couple that is undergoing divorce proceedings. Now, let us understand what the Supreme Court's stand is on misuse of domestic violence laws. The Supreme Court of India has previously acknowledged that there has been a great misuse of the laws of, such as 498A IPC in several judgments, including the famous judgment Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar, the citation of which is given on the screen, in which the court mandated judicial scrutiny before arrests were made under 498A to prevent unnecessary harassment of men. Similarly, in Rajesh Sharma versus State of UP, a 2017 judgment, the court recommended pre litigation mediation and safeguards against false and frivolous cases filed by women against their husbands in order to balance the situation and help the judicial system to protect genuine victims while at the same time prevent misuse of legal provisions. It was also suggested that reforms such as making Section 498A should be considered and make the said section gender neutral, as it is not always that only the woman suffers, there are many instances when men also suffer. Now, let us come to a very recent case of the Supreme Court of India, 2024. This is called Dara Lakshmi Narayana and others versus State of Telangana. This was decided by the Supreme Court last week. In this case, the Supreme Court dealt with allegations of dowry harassment and cruelty under 498A IPC and the Dowry Prohibition Act. The court quashed the FIR against the in laws and against the husband because it was unsupported by evidence. It noted that the proceedings were likely to be retaliatory because the husband had filed for divorce and emphasized that 498A could be misused in matrimonial disputes. The judgment highlights the importance of specific and credible allegations to avoid the abuse of legal provisions, especially in cases involving in laws, to prevent unnecessary harassment. This judgment underscores the potential misuse of domestic violence laws when allegations are weak, vague, and unsubstantiated. Now, let us consider another very important judgment of the Supreme Court, which is again 2024, Praveen Kumar Jain versus Anju Jain. In this case, the Supreme Court, in the divorce between Praveen Kumar Jain and Anju Jain, outlined an 8-point formula to determine alimony amounts that were to be paid. This was brought to the forefront amid the public outcry following the suicide of Bengaluru Techie Atul Subhash, who had accused his wife of harassment. The 8 factors that have to be considered by any court when determining alimony are as follows: social and economic status of both parties, basic needs of the wife and the child or children, qualifications and employment status of both the individuals, assets and sources of income of both the individuals, standard of living of the wife during the marriage, whether the wife left her job to take care for the family, reasonable costs of legal proceedings for unemployed spouse, and the financial status of the husband, his earnings and responsibilities for maintenance. It is now settled law that when the court decides the alimony that has to be given, the court looks at the income affidavit of both parties. So it is not necessary that just because you're a woman, you will be granted alimony as a right. The death of Subhash Atul makes us all pause and think that are the domestic violence laws and the laws pertaining to dowry being misused by women regularly? If yes, should these women also be brought to justice? Can women actually misuse such vital laws which were drafted to provide protection to genuine cases and have now become a means of abuse and exploitation. Atul's tragic death is a call to one and all for the urgent need for judicial reforms to ensure that true justice is given to all parties and at the same time the integrity of law is protected and safeguarded. The misuse of law as a tool of harassment is something that must stop. This case is a grim reminder to all of us about the unresolved disputes and systematic flaws that continue in our legal system and something that requires immediate attention by the courts, by the legislature, and also by us as members of society. What one now has started rethinking is, can there be legal provisions designed to protect individuals, that is, both men and women? What about the emotional and financial distress that both parties go through? And most importantly, the fact that there is a judicial oversight many a times when a false case is filed by a wife. The judgment of Adnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar is extremely important today because that was the first call that the Supreme Court of India made in recognizing that there were false and malicious cases filed by women against their spouses and their. I would suggest that if there are matrimonial disputes between parties, we as lawyers should definitely make an effort to bring both parties to the mediation table and see whether through mediation we can resolve the dispute amicably and let both parties continue to live with dignity. With this, I would like to say thank you for viewing and till we meet next week with the new episode. If you have found this episode useful, please like, share, and subscribe. If you press the notification button, you will be notified every time we upload a new video. Dear viewers, there is a disclaimer that this particular video is only a legal tip that is bringing to you our perspective of the law. It cannot be deemed to be legal advice. Till we meet again next week, thank you.